It was a November evening in Ohio. I sat alone in the living room, a thin blanket draped over my legs and a warm cup of tea in my hands. The old fireplace crackled softly, like an aging wooden clock struggling to keep the rhythm of the approaching winter. In the silence of the house, I could even hear the wind slipping through the doorframe, brushing against memories long tucked away. The phone rang, abruptly snapping me out of my drifting thoughts. A familiar name lit up the screen. Jessica, my daughter-in-law. I hesitated for a second. A strange, uneasy feeling swelled quietly in my chest, as if something wasn't quite right, but I picked up anyway. "Hi, Jessica, sweetie, is that you?" I tried to sound cheerful, warm. I didn't know why, but every time I heard her voice, my heart tensed up with a vague kind of worry. She didn't say hello. "Mom, have you cleaned up the house yet? We're coming home for Thanksgiving. We just booked our tickets." I paused for a breath, then smiled and replied softly, "Oh, you're all coming? That's wonderful. How long will you be staying?" Her answer came sharp and fast, like an order. "A full week. Please make sure everything's ready. The house has to be spotless. Don't let it be like last time. Dust on the shelves, dog hair everywhere, it was awful." I still remember the jam stain on the sofa. It was disgusting. I tightened my grip slightly on the arm of the chair, keeping my voice steady. "Okay, I understand." Just when I thought the call was over, a text alert buzzed. A long message popped up on the screen, along with several photos. It was a full-page list of everything I needed to prepare for Thanksgiving. "I just sent you the full shopping list. Go through it and make sure to get everything. And remember, only buy organic, okay? The regular stuff just tastes bad and isn't healthy. The turkey has to be free-range, the mushrooms need to be fresh, not the canned kind." My heart started to beat faster as I looked at the list. Over 30 items, everything from vegetables to imported spices. Some even had specific store names written next to them, as if there was only one right place to buy each thing. I hesitated, the phone still in my hand. "Jessica, honey, this is a lot for me too." She cut me off before I could finish, her voice sharp with irritation. "It's not that much, Mom. It's Thanksgiving. Friends and guests might drop by and we'll be eating all week. You need to get started now or you won't make it. Oh, and the fireplace at your place smells weird. It's old and kind of burnt out. Call someone to fix it or get a new one. It's freezing and the baby can't be in that kind of cold." I froze. Replace the fireplace? Now? Right before the holidays, when everything costs more and contractors are fully booked? I tried to keep my voice soft. Fix the heater? This close to the holidays? It'll be really expensive. Her reply hit harder than I expected. A sting right where I was trying to hold on to my pride. Expensive or not, it has to be done. Are you really going to put money before comfort? And don't forget the bedding in the guest room. Take it to the cleaners so it smells fresh and feels nice. The room needs to feel like a hotel, a proper 5-star one. Please don't wash it at home. It never dries completely and feels damp. That's how people get allergies." I sat still, the weight in my chest growing heavier. I didn't say another word. It wasn't because I had nothing to say, but because I didn't know where to begin. Her words hadn't been loud, and there was no anger in them, yet they cut through me like a cold wind slipping under the skin, sharp enough to sting. "Oh, and don't forget to get a few cases of soda, some craft beers for Mark, and a couple of good bottles of wine. Mark and his friends will be there too, and we want to make sure they're well taken care of. You got all that? Please try to prepare everything properly. We don't want to show up and be disappointed if things are missing." I set the phone down on the couch beside me. The grocery list was still glowing on the screen, line after line filling the entire display. Outside the window, The Ohio night hung heavy with damp autumn chill, but nothing felt colder than what had settled inside me. The light from the table lamp fell softly across the old fireplace, the one that had warmed my hands every winter. Jessica once said it smelled burnt and looked outdated, but to me, it was the most faithful thing in this house. I stared at it for a long time. The flames of past winters seemed to flicker again, burning quietly in my memory. I sighed, feeling a weariness rise inside me, not from my body, but from a loneliness that had been gathering for years. Jessica's voice cut through the silence, cold and impatient. "Mom, are you even listening? Why aren't you answering me?" I tightened my grip on the phone handle, breathing slowly, carefully. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady, almost flat. "Yes, I understand." On the other end, Jessica replied quickly, crisp and commanding. "All right then, I have a meeting to get to. Just make sure you do everything I said." I didn't respond. The last sound was the long tone of disconnection. Then nothing. I set the phone on the table. The house sank into a heavy silence, so still that I could hear my own heartbeat. I walked over to the small desk and opened my iPad. The glow from the screen reflected off my face, catching the dry shine of my eyes. I started to open Amazon Fresh, ready to order everything on Jessica's list, but my hand stopped. Something inside me stirred, strong and clear, cutting through the quiet like a wave breaking. My finger hovered, then moved to the travel icon. I scrolled through destinations until one line caught my eye. Florida, sunshine, blue ocean, and rest. I didn't hesitate. I chose a 5-day, 4-night trip, leaving the afternoon before Thanksgiving. When I entered my credit card information, my hand didn't tremble. Every motion felt deliberate, as if I had been waiting for this moment all my life. After the booking confirmation email came through, I let out a small smile. It wasn't quite joy, but something closer to relief. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out my old suitcase. Every time the wheels touched the floor, I felt a little lighter inside. I began packing slowly. A few sets of clothes, a bottle of sunscreen, the wide-brimmed hat I bought on a trip last year. Everything was folded neatly, carefully placed. As I packed, I couldn't help but think of the things Jessica had said over the years. She once called me messy, disorganized, stuck in the past. And yet here I was, placing every shirt, every pair of sandals, every little tube of toothpaste with quiet precision. When I pushed the suitcase into the corner of the room, it felt like I had finally set down a weight that had been pressing on my shoulders for far too long. That night, after booking the trip and finishing the packing, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. The room was bathed in the soft glow of the old bedside lamp, the only sound coming from the steady ticking of the clock. Inside me was a mix of emotions. There was a flicker of excitement, but also a lingering heaviness I couldn't quite explain. Some people might wonder why I wasn't happy that my children were coming home, why I chose to leave instead, like someone running away. But the truth is, only when you've carried something too long do you begin to understand the limits of your strength. And when the memories returned, they reminded me this choice wasn't impulsive. It was necessary. I remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago so clearly. Back then, I had looked forward to their arrival the way a child waits for presents. I spent the whole week cleaning and started cooking at dawn. The little wooden house was filled with the familiar scents of pumpkin pie, roast turkey, and cranberry sauce. I truly believed that dinner would be warm and full of laughter, that we would sit together like we used to, smiling and talking as if nothing had changed. As soon as the door opened, Jessica stepped in. Her eyes scanned the room before landing on the ceiling. Her voice was as cold as early winter wind. "Oh my God, how did you clean this place?" "There's still a cobweb in the corner. If Kevin breathes that in, he might have an allergy attack." I froze for a second, then quickly replied, "Okay, I'll grab the broom and take care of it right away." Mark was sitting nearby, eyes fixed on his phone, his tone indifferent. "Just let Jessica handle it, Mom. She notices everything. She just wants things to be perfect for the boy." I forced a smile, though my heart sank. I didn't say anything else. I just bent down and picked up the broom. My son's words landed like an invisible blade, cutting something I couldn't quite name between us. I kept cooking, trying not to let it get to me. I stayed in the kitchen all day, sweat gathering on my forehead. By the time dinner was ready, I felt I had done everything I could, and I hoped maybe they'd feel a little joy. But when Jessica took a bite, she winced. "Oh no, this is way too salty. People care about health now, you know. Salty doesn't mean good. And the green beans? They're bland. No flavor at all." I stood still, the spoon still in my hand. Kevin, sitting next to his mother, used his fork to push his plate away. "Grandma's food is gross. I'm not eating this. I want KFC chicken." I looked at him, my throat tightening. He was only 8, but his voice already sounded cold, just like his mother's. I turned to Mark, hoping he might say something different. But he just lowered his head, his eyes still fixed on his plate. "See, Mom? He's not eating. Maybe next time you should watch some cooking videos online. It'd make meals more enjoyable for everyone." His voice faded a little at the end, but every word still reached me clearly. What I felt in that moment wasn't just sadness. It was something emptier. I lifted a piece of potato with my fork and brought it to my mouth, but I couldn't swallow. The flavor was gone. I turned on the bed, staring at the dark ceiling. Memories followed one another, and last year's Thanksgiving came back as vividly as if it had happened yesterday. That day, the whole family sat in the living room watching football, laughing and shouting at the screen. I was in the kitchen, washing pans, drying plates, my hands sunk in cold water while their voices filled the house with warmth. Jessica was stretched out on the sofa, her eyes on the TV. "Mom, can you grab me a glass of juice from the fridge? The sugar-free kind, and add some ice, please." I was scrubbing a pan when I turned my head slightly. "Sure, give me a second to wash my hands." Jessica let out a sigh loud enough for everyone to hear, heavy with impatience. "You're taking forever. I'm dying of thirst here. Can you hurry up a little?" I stopped what I was doing, wiped my hands, and went to get her the drink. When I brought it over, she took it without looking at me. On the TV, their favorite team had just scored. The cheers and laughter drowned out the thank you that never came. The next morning, I made coffee for everyone. When I brought the tray into the living room, Jessica pointed toward the bathroom trash can. "Mom, the trash in there is overflowing. It's disgusting. Can you take care of it?" I smiled faintly and nodded. As I turned away, Mark spoke up, his tone sharp with irritation. "Mom, those shoes are so worn out. Why don't you throw them away and buy new ones? It's embarrassing if our friends see them." I froze, my eyes falling on the pair of shoes I'd worn through so many winters. I had bought them with what little I'd saved. They weren't pretty, but they were warm and familiar. I didn't answer. I just nodded softly and walked toward the stairs. I turned over in bed. No tears fell, but my chest felt unbearably heavy. I knew why I had to leave. It wasn't because I was angry. It was because I needed to reclaim a small sense of dignity, even if it came only from myself. I remember that afternoon with painful clarity. One sharp crash was all it took to make my heart seize up. My hands trembled as I looked down at the shattered glass spread across the kitchen floor. It was the crystal cup Jessica always treated like a treasure, kept high on its own shelf. I had only meant to dust it, but it slipped from my hand. The sound of it breaking stayed with me for days. What hurt wasn't the value of the cup. What followed after was what left a deeper crack inside me. Jessica rushed in almost instantly, her footsteps quick, her eyes wide. She froze in the kitchen doorway, staring at the broken pieces at my feet. Her face flushed red, and when she spoke, her voice was sharp and high-pitched, cutting through me. "Do you have any idea how much that cup was worth? It's an antique, over $100. Can you ever handle anything with care? Everything in this house is old and outdated." I lowered my head, hands shaking as I gathered the shards into a dish towel, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't bring myself to look at her, not with that gaze so sharp it felt like it could slice skin. Mark came in a few moments later. He stood there silently for a second, taking in the scene. Then he let out a sigh. It wasn't a sigh of concern or empathy. It was the kind of sigh that comes from someone trying to stay out of trouble. He turned to me, his voice cool, like someone pointing out a system failure. "Mom, you're getting older. Your hands aren't steady anymore. Please don't touch any of Jessica's glassware or porcelain again. Just use your plastic cups. That's safer." I lifted my head, trying to speak, but my throat closed up. His words didn't just hurt. They confirmed something I hadn't dared admit. I had become a guest in my own home, or worse, someone who no longer belonged there at all. A few days later, while I was sorting through some old photos in the living room, Kevin, my 8-year-old grandson, grabbed a black marker and began scribbling all over the freshly painted wall. The lines were childish but bold, standing out clearly on the smooth surface. I walked over slowly and spoke to him gently. "Kevin, please don't draw on the wall. It was just painted, and the ink will be hard to clean." He spun around instantly, his eyes blazing with defiance. Then he shouted, his voice high and sharp. "Shut up, Grandma. You're ugly. Mom says you're not allowed to scold me." I froze, my hand suspended in midair. The pain didn't come from his words alone. It came from the realization that a child, only 8 years old, felt he could speak to me that way. No one had taught him to say those things directly, but someone had clearly planted those ideas in his mind, day by day. Jessica came rushing out from the kitchen. When she saw her son crying, she scooped him up as if I had done something terrible. "Oh, please, it's just some drawings. We can repaint later if we have to. There's no need to make a big deal out of it. If you don't love your grandson, fine, but don't try to scare him." I stood motionless. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything except the pounding in my chest. I looked at the two of them and realized that to them, I had no place. Not as a grandmother, not as a mother, not even as the owner of the house. I was just the unpaid help. And the moment I tried to speak up, I instantly became the villain in their eyes. That Thanksgiving night, they gathered in the living room. Laughter echoed through the house, and the air was filled with the scent of wine and roasted butter. I sat alone in the kitchen, beside a cup of cold tea, staring out at the dark garden beyond the glass door. The light from the living room reached just far enough for me to see my reflection on the window pane. A faint, solitary figure, completely separate from the warmth and noise on the other side of the door. The thought came to me, clear as day. Thanksgiving. It was supposed to be a time of gratitude and togetherness, but to them, I was just convenience, a service. They celebrated each other while resting on the weariness and loneliness they left me to carry. Being here alone, in this house, was somehow less painful than being ignored within it. I stayed there for a long while, my eyes lost in the darkness outside. Night had deepened. The streetlights had faded behind a thin curtain of mist. In the kitchen, the clock ticked steadily, and inside me, an invisible cup called patience had finally overflowed. I turned and looked toward the corner of the room where my suitcase had been packed since that afternoon. In that moment, I knew every trace of hesitation or guilt had left me. My eyes no longer held their old softness. They were calm now, but cold, like someone who had just laid down a burden they'd been carrying for far too long. I let out a long breath. Then I turned off the lights, rolled onto my side, and closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I fell asleep not with anxious waiting, but with a quiet sense of peace. I knew, without a doubt, that I had made a clear choice, and I would not look back. The afternoon before Thanksgiving, the sky over Ohio was soft gray and gently cold. I was sitting in a lounge chair on the porch of a Florida resort, a cold glass of coconut water resting in my hand. The sea breeze brushed lightly against my cheek, and somehow, my heart felt even lighter than the wind itself. My phone lit up. I tapped the icon for the remote security camera back home. On the screen, I watched as a familiar SUV pulled up to the front gate. Mark stepped out first, opening the trunk to retrieve the luggage. Jessica followed, juggling several large bags, her face glowing like someone about to start an upscale vacation. Kevin leapt out of the back seat, hugging a stuffed bear to his chest. None of them looked surprised. They all believed I was inside the house, waiting for them, ready to begin a full week of non-stop service. Jessica walked up and rang the doorbell again and again. No barking, no footsteps, no sounds from inside. The gate stayed still, the latch firmly in place. Mark frowned, glancing at his wife. I could see him mutter with a hint of concern. That's strange. Where could Mom be? Maybe she ran out for last-minute groceries. Jessica snatched her bag from his hand, her voice suddenly sharper. I told her to stay home and wait. This is completely irresponsible. Call her now. I continued to watch from my phone. I set my drink aside, saying nothing, not even blinking. Mark took out his phone and dialed my number. The ringtone played out into silence until the call dropped into voicemail. Hi, this is Eleanor. I can't take your call right now. Please leave a message after the tone. Jessica narrowed her eyes at him, her face tightening. Leave a message? She turned off her phone? What is wrong with her? She looked around, then knelt by the flower pot, checking for the spare key I used to hide there. Her voice was low, frustrated. It's freezing out here. I stayed exactly where I was, seated in the chair. Legs crossed, hands resting calmly in my lap. The blue ocean in front of me moved with gentle waves, but inside me, everything was still and silent to the point of numbness. They entered the house using the spare key. The security camera recorded each confident step, unaware that everything had changed. The house felt strangely cold and quiet. There was no scent of roasted turkey drifting through the air. No trace of freshly baked pie. No sounds of pots clattering or knives slicing on the cutting board. Only a clean, undisturbed silence. Jessica rushed into the kitchen and yanked open the fridge. Her voice rang out in a high-pitched cry. Oh my God, the fridge is almost empty. Where's the turkey? Where are the baking ingredients? What happened to the shopping list I sent? Mark, clearly alarmed, ran upstairs and opened the door to my room. Mom? Where are you? Where's your suitcase? Downstairs, Kevin shouted. Where's Grandma? I'm hungry. Jessica clenched her fists, her lips tightening before trembling with anger. No, this can't be real. She left? How could she do this? We came all the way here. I kept watching it all unfold through my phone. Every word, every reaction played out like a scene in a movie for which I already knew the script. None of it surprised me. After all the shouting, they sat in silence in the living room. The room that used to be the warmest place during the holidays now felt like an empty shell, cold and hollow. Mark kept calling me, his voice at first tinged with concern. "Mom, it's me. Mark, we're home now. Where are you? Please call me back. I'm really worried." Less than 15 minutes later, Jessica took the phone from him. Her voice had turned noticeably sharper. "Eleanor, why did you turn off your phone? We're all waiting here starving. You have a responsibility. Come home right now." An hour passed. Mark left another message, this time clearly frustrated. "Mom, this joke has gone on long enough. We just flew in after a long trip. Come home." I didn't answer. Not out of anger, just because there was nothing left to say. Then Jessica's voice rang out again through the camera. She was almost shouting. "Mark, look at this." I saw her on the screen holding up a piece of paper, placing it in the center of the kitchen table. It was a printout of the resort booking confirmation. At the bottom, in red ink, I had written a single line. "Looking for peace. Don't look for me. Eleanor." Jessica nearly exploded. "Look at this. She's in Florida, a 5-star resort, 5 days, 4 nights. Exactly during our vacation. She planned this. She planned to disappear and leave us to deal with everything ourselves." I set the phone down on the side table and picked up my coconut water again. I took a slow sip. The ocean breeze kept blowing gently across the porch. The waves continued to roll and break in their steady rhythm. And inside me, for the first time in a very long time, there was real peace. I knew then that whatever storm was happening out there, it could no longer touch me. I had thought that when they realized I was gone, they might feel sad, might panic a little, and eventually understand why I left. I had hoped they would reflect, take a step back, and see things more clearly, but they didn't. The first thing they did was not worry, not wonder, but get angry. That afternoon, I was walking barefoot on the soft sand, the ocean breeze weaving through my hair, when my phone started vibrating nonstop. It wasn't a call. It was a flood of voice messages coming in one after another. I opened the first one. Jessica's voice came through, sharp and piercing, like the edge of a cold blade. "This is unbelievable. We came all this way to spend Thanksgiving with you, and you ran off on a vacation? Are you even a mother? A grandmother? All you care about is yourself. Selfish. Do you even have a heart?" I listened. My chest tightened, not from pain, but from disappointment. They truly didn't understand. Or maybe they simply never wanted to. Another message popped up. This time, it was Mark's voice, lower but full of frustration and blame. "I thought you loved us, loved your grandson. And yet, a vacation meant more to you than family? You really think this is okay? Who's going to take care of you when you're older? You can't act like a child anymore, Mom." I let out a quiet laugh. They actually thought I needed them. They believed I had walked away out of selfishness, but never once did they ask what I had endured all these years. Jessica sent another message, her voice now laced with bitterness and spite. So typical. "All you ever think about is yourself. You really think walking out like this makes you strong? Just wait. We won't forget this." I set the phone down on the wooden table beside the lounge chair. The breeze kept blowing. The waves kept rolling in. But inside me, every word they spoke echoed like a knock from the past, faint but unmistakable. A few days later, while I was relaxing by the pool, my longtime neighbor Linda called. She didn't greet me the way she usually did. She got straight to the point, her voice dropping low. "Eleanor, listen. Jessica's been coming by my house these past few days." Her eyes were red and puffy. She told me, "Ms. Linda, Eleanor left us during Thanksgiving to go on vacation. She abandoned her family without a single word. Maybe she's not mentally well anymore. Or maybe there's another man involved. That's the only reason someone would be so heartless." I sat in silence. Linda kept talking, her voice caught between sympathy and frustration. She was crying and going on and on, telling it so dramatically that the new neighbors who don't really know what happened started to believe her. They looked at me with pity in their eyes and shook their heads like I was something to be ashamed of. I didn't respond. I didn't want her to hear the sound of me holding back tears. Linda sighed and continued. Then Mark came over to my husband's place. He looked really down. He told John, "I think my mom isn't well. She left like that, didn't even care about Kevin's health. It's really worrying." I bit my lip. In that moment, my anger settled into something deeper. Not because they were talking behind my back, but because they were making things up without shame. Linda sighed again and went on. "Of course, John and I know how those two are, so we kept quiet, but not everyone else did. Some neighbors started whispering that you might be depressed. Others said you were irresponsible, a bad mother. Eleanor, they've created a whole narrative around you, and people are buying into it." I nodded. She didn't need to say anything more. I understood. The freedom I thought I had found in Florida was now being stained by the stories my own children were spreading. I turned to look out the window. What they don't understand is that those cheap, cowardly lies have only widened the distance between us, and they've made my resolve stronger. I deserve respect. I deserve peace. This time, I was ready, and I would not stay silent anymore. On Sunday afternoon, after the Thanksgiving holiday, I returned to my little house in Ohio, dragging my suitcase behind me. My skin had tanned slightly under the Florida sun, and my mind felt lighter, as if a heavy stone had finally lifted from my chest. As the taxi pulled up, I noticed that Mark and Jessica's SUV was still parked in front of the yard. I wasn't surprised. I had barely stepped into the driveway and reached for my keys when the front door flew open. Mark and Jessica came rushing out, their faces flushed with anger. Mark's voice thundered first, loud and accusing. "Where have you been these past few days? We've been worried sick. We called you 100 times. Do you even consider this your home anymore?" I didn't respond right away. I set the suitcase down gently, brushed the windblown hair from my face, and looked up. Jessica pointed a finger straight at me, her eyes blazing. "You're unbelievable. You went off on a vacation right during Thanksgiving and left your family without even a meal. You don't deserve to be called a mother or a grandmother." I looked her in the eyes. My voice was calm, steady, and cold. "This is my house. I come and go as I choose, and you do not point your finger at me. I am not your unpaid maid." The shouting didn't stay within the yard. A few neighbors had already peeked out their doors. I saw Linda standing by her window, phone in hand. Across the street, Mr. Miller and Susan had stepped outside too, watching with wary eyes. Seeing the neighbors gathering, Jessica changed her tone immediately. Her face shifted into a look of sorrow. Her eyes welled with tears, and her voice turned soft and pitiful, like a helpless victim. "Everyone, can you believe this? My mother-in-law left us during Thanksgiving to go on vacation. She abandoned us, even our 8-year-old son, in a cold, empty house with no food and no explanation. We were so worried." Mr. Miller turned to me, shaking his head with disappointment. "Eleanor, is that true? How could a mother do something so selfish, so irresponsible? I'm really disappointed in you." Susan spoke up too. "Oh dear, imagine how the children must have felt. That's heartbreaking." I tightened my hands slightly, then stepped forward onto the porch. I stood tall, faced the crowd, and spoke loud and clear. Selfish, irresponsible. Then let me, Eleanor, 68 years old, tell you the truth behind their tragic little story. I turned to Jessica, my voice firm and steady. She didn't just come home to visit. She sent me a grocery list with over 30 items, all expensive organic brands, and demanded I fix the fireplace and clean the house until it looked like a 5-star hotel. Am I a mother or an unpaid maid? I looked at Mark. My throat tightened, but I spoke anyway. And you, Mark, my son, you once said my cooking wasn't good enough. You said my old shoes embarrassed you in front of your friends, and you let Kevin call me an ugly old woman. Is that what you call a family gathering? Or was I just a servant for your holiday? The air in the yard grew thick. The neighbors fell silent. Then the murmuring began. Their eyes slowly shifted, moving from pity to suspicion, and then to anger. Mr. Miller scratched his head, looking embarrassed. Eleanor, I didn't know any of this. Susan placed a hand on her chest, her voice filled with shock. Oh my goodness, they lied to us. I stayed right where I was, not backing down. For the first time in years, I felt I had reclaimed something important. Not just the truth, but my dignity. The voice of someone who had been ignored for far too long. And today, I let that voice be heard by everyone. When I finished speaking, the crowd still stood gathered in the yard. The earlier silence quickly gave way to murmurs. The looks now directed at Mark and Jessica were no longer sympathetic. They were filled with doubt, even anger. Jessica looked around, her face pale. She lowered her head, tears streaming down her cheeks in a way that felt more theatrical than sincere. Then suddenly, she changed her tone so fast I barely had time to react. Mother, I was wrong. I'm truly sorry. Please forgive us. I promise I'll change. Can we go inside and talk? Too many people are watching. Mark stood beside her, trying to keep calm, but his voice shook and his words stumbled. Mom, I'm sorry. It was all a misunderstanding. We just wanted to spend Thanksgiving with you. Let's not argue here, in front of the house. They both turned toward the crowd, their eyes darting around, looking for a way out. Everyone, it's all right now. This is a family matter. We'll handle it ourselves. Thank you for your concern. I stood there, watching them perform their little act, and suddenly felt exhausted. A flicker of softness passed through me, not because I believed them, but because I had grown too used to soothing my own heart after every wound. I let out a quiet breath, then nodded. All right, everyone can go. I'll handle this myself. The neighbors began to disperse, though many turned back repeatedly. Some looked skeptical, others shook their heads with pity. Across the street, Mrs. Linda still stood by her window, saying nothing. But I could see the camera on her phone was still recording. I pulled my suitcase inside, walking slowly across the porch. My heart was caught between relief and tension. I thought, maybe after everything, they would finally reflect on their actions. But the moment the door shut behind me, I knew I had been wrong. Jessica spoke first. Her voice was no longer trembling. It was sharp, cutting, full of venom. Happy now, aren't you? You humiliated us in front of the entire neighborhood. Crazy old woman. You really know how to play the game, don't you? I turned to face her, my eyes fixed on hers. Mark stepped forward, his face flushed, fists clenched. His voice was tight, like he was ready to crush me with every word. Who do you think you are? Talking trash about us to the neighbors? You're insane. I froze. Not from fear, but from disbelief. I could barely speak. You called me insane? So that little show outside, all that talk about wanting to work things out, that was all just for show? Before I could say anything more, Mark stepped closer and shouted, "Shut your mouth." All I felt was a strong shove against my shoulder. My body stumbled, then crashed into the edge of the wooden dining table. My head hit hard against the corner. A dull, cracking sound echoed. Then everything blurred. I could feel the blood trickling down my forehead. It was hot and sharp. My vision swam. Everything spun around me. In that dazed moment, I heard Jessica's voice, cold and close above me. "Useless old hag. Leech on society." I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight back, but my body wouldn't move. I heard the door fly open. Rushed footsteps filled the air. "Oh my God, Eleanor, did you just lay hands on your own mother? Shame on you." It was Linda's voice, loud and furious. Then came Mr. Miller's roar. "You bastard! I was wrong about you!" I could feel people rushing to my side. Someone held Mark and Jessica back. Someone else pressed a cloth to my bleeding forehead. I forced my eyes open. Linda was cradling me, her hands trembling. Her phone was still recording. On the screen, I saw it all. Mark's furious face, Jessica's twisted expression, and me, lying motionless in a pool of blood. I lifted my hand with all the strength I had left. My finger pointed toward them. My voice came out in a raspy whisper, broken but resolute. "From this moment on, we are finished. You are no longer my children." I heard the sound of an ambulance siren growing closer. Around me were angry voices, shouting, the noise of neighbors pushing and cursing in outrage. I closed my eyes and let myself slip into the dark. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I knew the truth had come to light, and justice would follow. I woke up under the cold, sterile light of the emergency room. The sharp scent of antiseptic filled each breath. My head was wrapped in gauze, and each movement brought a dull sting, but my mind was startlingly clear. The doctor told me I had a mild concussion and a scalp wound. It looked worse than it was. I was lucky. As my eyes adjusted to the light, I saw Linda sitting by my bed, her face drawn with worry. A few familiar neighbors stood beside her. In the far corner of the room, Mark and Jessica huddled together. Mr. Miller and another neighbor stood nearby, watching them closely. The two of them had their heads down, pale and silent, caught between fear and shame. Linda gripped my hand, her voice trembling. "Eleanor, you're awake. Thank goodness. We were all so worried about you." I slowly sat up, clutching the edge of the blanket. My voice was soft but firm. "Linda, please? Let me speak to them?" She hesitated for a second, then nodded. Mr. Miller motioned them forward. Mark and Jessica walked slowly, their heads lowered, eyes avoiding mine. Mark stammered. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just lost control." I raised my hand to silence him. My voice was steady and deliberate. "Enough. I'm fully awake now. The performance is over." The room fell silent. The heart monitor beeped steadily in the background, like the cold pulse of what I had become. I looked directly at them, letting each word carve its weight. "From this moment forward, I am no longer your mother. My house will never again welcome you or your wife. This is my final decision." Jessica lifted her head, eyes wide, trying to look pitiful. Her voice cracked as she pleaded. "But Mom, I cut her off, my tone icy, my gaze shifting to Linda. "If either of you dares to come near me again or disturb me in any way, I will hand over the video Linda recorded to the police. The charge will be elderly assault. Would you like to see what the legal consequences are in Ohio?" No one said a word. Mark lowered his head. Jessica just gave a faint sob. I turned away and closed my eyes, ending it all with a single long breath. A few days later, I was discharged from the hospital. When I returned home, I changed every lock, from the gate to the front door. The house was quiet now, clean. I lived alone, but I was not lonely. Each morning, Linda brought over fresh-baked pastries. Mr. Miller helped repair the fence. Other neighbors often stopped by to check in. That afternoon, Linda came over to my house, holding her iPad in hand. Her face was glowing, a stark contrast to how she had looked just a few days ago. She sat down beside me, her voice lowering with excitement. "Eleanor, look at this. The video I recorded has been picked up by local news outlets and is spreading everywhere. The headlines are things like, Ohio son attacks 68-year-old mother during Thanksgiving, and the truth behind the elderly woman who left home for a holiday trip." The internet is furious. I took the iPad from her and scrolled through the comments. People were calling Mark and Jessica monsters, ungrateful children. Some even called for a boycott, sharing their workplace information. Every comment burned with outrage. I didn't feel joy, I didn't feel triumph. Just a deep, quiet peace. As if, at last, things were beginning to settle into place. Linda let out a satisfied chuckle. "And here's the hot news. The financial company where Mark works just announced that he's been suspended pending investigation. Their image took a huge hit. They can't keep someone involved in domestic violence and media scandal." She paused, lowering her voice with deliberate weight. "As for Jessica, her little salon is completely empty now. People come in just to point fingers and walk back out. Her business partners have dropped her too." I gave a slow nod and set the iPad down on the table. Outside, sunlight poured through the window, casting a pale gold hue on the curtains. I poured another cup of hot tea. The rising steam blurred my vision for a moment, but my voice came out steady and firm. They once made me feel ashamed of being a mother. Now, it's their turn to bow their heads before their own conscience. Linda placed a hand gently on my shoulder and said, "That's right, Eleanor. Justice has finally taken your side." Just when I thought everything was beginning to settle down, the phone rang. Mark's name lit up on the screen. I stared at it for a few seconds before slowly pressing the answer button. Mark's voice came through, urgent but edged with anger. "Mom, you need to speak up. You have to make it clear that the video isn't real. Everyone's tearing us apart. Do you want to ruin my life?" I didn't answer right away. I let him speak, listening carefully to see if there was even a hint of remorse. But there wasn't. Just blame. Jessica's voice cut in, sharp and accusatory. "How long do you plan to stay silent? Do you want your son to lose his job? Do you want my salon to shut down? That video could have been edited, you know? People are good at faking things these days. If you still consider yourself a mother, part of this family, then you need to speak up and set the record straight." I stayed seated, eyes cold as stone. I wasn't surprised. I was just waiting to see how far they'd go. Jessica spoke again, this time with a veiled threat. "If you don't fix this, I'll divorce Mark." I let out a short laugh. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a blade. "Go ahead and do it." I spoke each word clearly, calmly, without hesitation. "Do you really think I'd change my mind? After everything? After the insults, the fall, the humiliation? You still believe I'd save your toxic marriage?" I stood up and walked to the door, looking out at the garden I had recently trimmed. "You pushed me to the deepest pit of loneliness. And now, when you're the ones falling, you expect me to reach down and pull you out?" I ended the call. I didn't wait for another word. When I turned back, I saw Linda standing by the table, watching me with quiet understanding. She didn't ask what had happened. She just gently poured more tea into my cup and placed it in front of me without a word. Spring had returned to the small town where I lived. 6 months had passed since everything happened. I was sitting in the armchair on my porch, a cup of afternoon tea in hand, a novel resting lightly on my lap. This was the kind of peace I used to dream of, though I never truly believed I would one day reach it. This peace hadn't been given to me. I had fought for it, through pain, with clarity, and with the realization that family ties, no matter how deep, could indeed be severed. That afternoon, while the sunlight still lingered on the porch, there came a soft knock at the door. I rose and opened it. Standing before me was Mark. No expensive suit, no air of a successful man, just a broken figure. He wore an old, wrinkled tracksuit. His hair was matted, eyes sunken, red and vacant. The faint smell of cheap liquor clung to him, making me wrinkle my nose. He looked at me, his voice hoarse and trembling. "Mom." I stood straight, my gaze calm and devoid of emotion. My voice was quiet, but it struck like ice. "Miss Eleanor. Call me Miss Eleanor." Mark swallowed hard, his eyes dropping to the floor. He struggled to hold himself together. "I got fired. They said it was part of a moral restructuring. That video? It was a death sentence. No financial firm in this state will touch me now." His voice cracked, his shoulders shook. "Jessica left. She took all the savings, took Kevin with her, and left me with the debt from the apartment and the BMW. The bank is about to repossess everything. I have nothing left." His voice broke into a sob. Tears ran down his worn cheeks. "Please, Mom, can I stay here for a while? Just for a little while." I looked at him for a long time, from head to toe. Every wrinkle, every trace of exhaustion, every pleading glance. But not a single part of me stirred. My voice came out slow and steady, each word like a final verdict. "A place to stay? Like the one you and your wife once so generously offered me? Where I was expected to be the unpaid maid, the cook, the babysitter?" I stepped out onto the porch and pointed to the garden, now blooming in full color. "Do you remember? You said this house was messy. You called my cooking terrible. You scolded me for trying to discipline your unruly child. You shoved your own mother, a 68-year-old woman, simply because she dared to speak up. And now that you've lost everything, you come back here and call me Mom?" I turned to face him, meeting the eyes that had once caused me the deepest pain. Whatever bond we once had, whatever love a mother carries for her child, that ended the moment you lifted your hand against me. The years I spent saving to pay for your education and to help you buy a home are no longer debts. They were paid in full long ago. You chose to discard everything, chasing the words of another and letting your own pride blind you. What you are facing now is nothing more than the bitter harvest of the seeds you planted yourself. Mark could no longer stand. He collapsed to his knees, clutching at my legs, sobbing like a child. "I was wrong. I know I hurt you. Please, forgive me." I pulled my leg away, my heart colder than stone. "There is no forgiveness here. Get up. Walk out of this place. This is no longer your home. Learn to live with the consequences you created." I turned away and stepped back inside. The door closed behind me, slowly and deliberately. I didn't lock it. I didn't need to. The boundary I drew was forged from steel. It required no key to remain intact. I stood in the living room, listening to the wailing outside. It wasn't the cry of the son I once raised. It was the sound of a man who had lost all sense of dignity. Eventually, even the sobs faded into silence. I poured myself a fresh cup of tea, settled into my familiar armchair, and turned to the next page of my unfinished book. A quiet sadness crept into my heart, but so did a strange sense of relief. I knew I had just closed a chapter of my life. 3 months later, I was living in a sunlit home filled with laughter and the warmth of friends, surrounded by neighbors who had never turned their backs on me. I learned to dance, I traveled, and I explored the world beyond the door that had once imprisoned my spirit. Sometimes I still wonder how little Kevin is doing. Has he been raised with more care and kindness, or has he grown into a reflection of Mark? This story is not shared to seek pity. It is meant to serve as a reminder of the importance of gratitude and respect within a family. I chose peace, and not for a single moment have I felt any regret. Sometimes, a little selfishness is the medicine a heart needs after being hurt for too long. And I, Eleanor, have found my own version of paradise within the walls of my own home. I did not tell this story for revenge or to feed anger. I told it to highlight something simple that many people have forgotten. Gratitude and respect within a family are not things that last forever on their own. They must be nurtured with genuine love and sincere actions, not empty words or manipulation. I was once a self-sacrificing mother, a patient grandmother, a woman who endured in silence. But it was only when I chose to set boundaries that I rediscovered my freedom. True peace does not come from keeping everyone close at all costs. It comes from letting go of what has been hurting you for far too long. If this story touched something in you, if it made you reflect on how you treat your parents or even yourself, then it was worth telling. Feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. If you've experienced something similar, I would love to hear your story. And if you want to continue following stories that expose lies, seek justice, and bring healing, make sure to subscribe to Revenge Diary today.